into this leaving a legacy, there I am. As we get into this leaving a legacy study, I'm going to show you a few pictures this morning of some famous couples. And I want you to tell me who they are. All right, it's kind of like a quiz, all right? See if you can know who these famous couples are, all right? So we're going to show picture one here of this famous couple. Who is that, guys? Come on. All right, okay, I hear Prince Harry a lot and Meghan Markle, right? So we got Meghan Markle, Prince Harry right there, famous couple. Most of us know who they are. What about this next couple right here? You may know that? Oh, it's silent. Yeah, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham, which is also, Victoria was I heard it over here, Spice Girl, right? Yeah, and David was a famous soccer player, right? All right, this is for the youth here. Youth, I'm going to be very disappointed if you don't know this famous couple, okay? How about this famous couple right here? Yes, Tom Holland and Zendaya. Tom Holland is what movie? What movie, Tom Holland and Zendaya? Spider-Man, right? All right, famous couple. I knew you guys would be on top of that one. All right, this one's for my wife. Who's this? Not Jason Aldean. This is Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. All right, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. All right, this next one you should all know. It's Sunday football. We had some Tech won yesterday. UVA won. They beat the heck out of Stanford last night. All right. Liberty and JMU battled. I think JMU came in on top. But this couple right here. Oh my gosh. Yes. All right. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. Very good. And then maybe the most famous couple of them all. All right. We've seen some famous couples up here, but this may top them all. Worldwide famous couple of all. Check this one out. Who's that? Oh. All right. Pat and Frank Wade. There you go right there. Like I told you, that was going to top them all right there, right? These are some pretty influential couples in our world today, right? We kind of know who they are, right? They tend to have some impact on some people, okay? But can I tell you this? These couples, and I think Frank and Pat would agree, these couples will never, ever be as influential or as impactful or as successful or get everything out of their relationship as they can without God. And the same is true for us in our relationships. We will never be as influential or as impactful or as successful or get everything out of our relationships as we can without God. And that plays a direct role into leaving a legacy in our families. That's what we want to look at today. How can we leave a legacy with our families? How do we want our spouse, our children, our families to remember us? What is our legacy in our marriage? What is our legacy as a parent? That's what we want to explore today. Therefore, the title of today's message is Leaving a Legacy with Your Family. Here is something to consider before we get going. The question isn't if you will leave a legacy, it is what kind of legacy will you leave? See, some of us have been fortunate and we've had parents or grandparents or their parents or great-grandparents or whatever it may be, and they've left some pretty daggone good legacies. Some of us haven't been as fortunate. And we've had some parents or grandparents or great-grandparents or whatever it may be leave some not so great legacies. The question isn't if you're going to leave a legacy, it's what legacy are you going to leave? What legacy are you going to leave in your marriage? What legacy are you going to leave with your children and their children? That's the question. Now, some of you may say, hey, I'm not married and I don't have kids. I want you to hang in there with me this morning as there's something to be taken away from this message for everyone as it relates to relationships in general. For those single people who want nothing to do with marriage, there are lessons to be taken from this in your relationships with your family members, with your friends, with your coworkers, and so on. For those single people who desire to be married one day, maybe we got some people over here like that. There are lessons to learn in this message for future relationships. For those of you that may be on your second marriage or your third marriage or your 10th marriage, I want to speak specifically about the marriage you are currently in today. What kind of legacy can you leave in the current marriage you are in today? So let's kick this off, all right? Let's kick this off by looking at some biblical marriages and what we can learn legacy-wise from some biblical marriages in the Bible. Now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of these found in the Bible, but there are a few. And I want to make sure that we focus on a few of these this morning, what we can take from these marriages in the Bible. The first, we're going to look at Abraham and Sarah. You can turn your Bibles to Genesis. It's throughout the book of Genesis there. But we are going to look at Abraham and Sarah, how they left a legacy of surrender and patience. A legacy of surrender and patience. See, Abraham and Sarah wanted to have a baby, right? That didn't happen for them right away. So they decided to take things into their own hands, get some other people involved, and try to go about things that way. That did not turn out the way they wanted it to, right? And they had to come to a place in their marriage, in their relationship, where they had to surrender it over to God. They had to give it over to Him. They had to say, God, take our marriage, take our relationship, take this fact that we want to have this child and take it over. We want to give this to you. We're tired of trying to do it our own way. That didn't work. We need to surrender it over to you. And then after that, they had to be a little patient. And then at the old ripe age, Abraham, 100 years old. When's the ideal age to have a baby? Guys, what's the ideal age? Come on. 20? 20? Okay, all right. 20 up here. What else we got? 23? 25? Okay. Abraham, 100 years old. Sarah, the young age of not 30, 90 years old. 90 years old. All right, so at the young ages of 100 and Sarah being 90, they have a child. They have Isaac. But it took a surrendering on their part and patience, obviously, on their part to make that happen. See, they thought their plan would be better. They thought their plan would work. They tried different things in their plan. That didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. They had to give it over to God and make it His plan. And isn't that what we need to do imagine if in our marriages, if we would take our marriage and surrender it completely to God. Yes, we have to individually surrender to Him. Give Him our lives. But imagine going to God and say, God, here's my marriage. It's all yours. We have plans, yes. We have goals, yes. But your plans are going to be bigger and better than ours. And we want to follow your will in our marriage. Imagine surrendering our marriages over to God like Abraham and Sarah had to do. And then being patient with Him to see what He will do in our marriage. And it may not be what we expected or what our plans were, but I can promise you this, it's going to be bigger and better if you surrender your marriage to Him and then be patient to see what He will do in it. Another marriage I want to look at is Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac and Rebekah left a legacy of trust and obedience. We find in Genesis 24, Abraham's getting older, and as we know, Isaac is Abraham's son. And Abraham decides, we've got to find a wife for my son. But I don't like any of the girls in this land that I'm living in. I actually want to go back to my old land and find a wife for her there. So he calls a servant in, and he says, hey, servant, we got to find a wife for Isaac. I need you to go back to where I used to live and find one and bring her back. Imagine being the servant, right? Okay, that sounds good, but what if she doesn't want to come with me? And Abraham says, well, if she doesn't want to come, don't make her, all right? We don't want to end up in, wherever, right? So don't make her, all right? It is what it is if she doesn't want to come. So the servant leaves and goes to this land looking for a wife for Isaac. I just can't imagine when he gets there, he gets to this land and he's kind of around this well, and all of a sudden, there's girls, places, and there's guys places, and people are kind of everywhere, and he's looking around and he's thinking, how am I going to find this woman that I'm supposed to bring back to marry Isaac? And gosh, even if I find one, how am I going to convince her to come with me, right? So he looks around a little bit, and he does something that I think is very key for us. When he doesn't know what to do, you know what he does? He prays. He starts to pray. He starts to say, God, I got to find this woman here for Isaac. I don't know how I'm going to find her, but I'll tell you what, if one of these ladies offers me a drink from this well, then maybe that's her. And not only that, but maybe if she offers to give water to my camels as well, then maybe this is the woman that you want me to bring back. And before he gets done praying, we see two sides of the spectrum here. Abraham and Sarah had to be patient till they were 90 years old to have a baby. This guy's not even done praying yet, and guess what happens? The servant's not even done praying yet, and this girl comes up and says, would you like a drink? It's all about quick. Well, don't we love for our prayers to be answered that quickly? Right? And he says, oh, yes, I would love one. And then all of a sudden she says, let me go get some more water for your camels. Oh my gosh, this is just what I prayed for. This is just what I was looking for, right? Now, this conversation would be a little awkward. So he says, this is the girl. This has got to be her. God has shown me the girl that I'm supposed to bring back to Isaac. And he says, how am I going to go about this? How about this? Hey, do you have a place that I could stay tonight? I don't have anywhere to stay. Can I stay at your house? And she's like, sure, we have a lot of room. He's like, this is working out perfect. Goes to the house with Rebecca, who's the girl, and gets there and meets the parents, and basically says, hey, here's the deal. I'm supposed to take your daughter back with me to marry Abraham's son. Abraham, he's kind of famous, you probably know him. But his son, Isaac, pretty wealthy. I'm going to take her back, and she's going to marry Isaac. And the parents are like, all right, if that's what God has told you to do, then you do that. All right? So then they go to bed. Then they wake up. And then guess what happens? The parents change their mind. They're like, wait a minute. This is probably not a great idea. We're sending our daughter off with this man to go marry some man we don't know. So we're going to keep her for a couple weeks and think about this. And then, of course, the servant's like, oh, no, don't do this. God wants her to come. And then they end up saying, well, let's leave it up to Rebecca. And Rebecca says, if this is what God wants, then this is what I'll do. And she ends up going with the servant back to meet Isaac to marry him. Through trust and obedience, Rebecca says, I trust God, and if this is what he wants, I will obey, and I will go back, and I will marry Isaac. And sure enough, she goes back. They hit it off pretty quickly, and they get married, and there's a whole story after that. But it only through trust and obedience. If we could take our marriages and surrender them completely to God, and then be patient with God after doing so. And then trust him. God, this is my marriage. This is all yours. We surrender it to you. We're going to be patient with you. We're going to trust you, and we're going to obey you. You want us to go live in Wyoming? We're going to Wyoming. You want us to go take this job over here? We're going to take this job over here. You want us to start a Bible study in the church? We'll start a Bible study in the church. You want us to join this connect group over here? We'll join this connect group over here. You want us to impact this neighborhood or this couple over here? We'll do that, God, because we're going to obey you. Imagine what our marriages would look like if we surrendered them to God, we were patient with him, and then we trusted him enough to obey him with what he wanted in our marriages. Imagine what they would look like. Then we go to Hosea and Gomer, and we read in Hosea in the Bible, we see there is a legacy of forgiveness in Hosea. This is a crazy love story, by the way, all right? And it really reflects God's love for Israel and us, is really what it is, because God orders Hosea to go marry Gomer. Now, Gomer is a girl that likes guys, a lot of guys, all right? I'll just say that. She tends to flock towards guys. But Hosea obeys God and marries Gomer. And guess what happens? Shocker, Gomer cheats and cheats and cheats again and again and again. And gets to a point where she's so far gone that she's a slave. And God directs Hosea and says, Hosea, I want you to go. Buy Gomer back. I want you to forgive her. Because what we see in Hosea and Gomer is a legacy of forgiveness. I want you to forgive her. I want you to go buy her back. And I want you to bring her back home. And Hosea, in obedience to God, goes and buys Gomer back and brings her back home and forgives her. And it's a direct correlation to us and our relationship with God, right? We mess up, and we mess up, and we mess up sometimes. And sometimes we mess up so much that we get so far gone that we can't save ourselves anymore. We can't help ourselves anymore. We can't get out of the situation that we're in anymore. But here comes God, not to buy us back with money or, worldly things, to buy us back with his own son's blood. And says, hey, I know you can't get out of this on your own, but I love you enough. I'm going to give you my son, Jesus. I'm going to buy you back. I'm going to forgive you time after time after time after time again. Come on back to me. Come on back home. If we could have a marriage of this type of forgiveness, because we all know, those of us that are married, our spouses mess up sometimes, don't they? Sometimes our spouses mess up, and we've got to forgive them, right? We've got to forgive them, and sometimes we've got to forgive them several times, right? So if we could have marriages of forgiveness, right, just like Hosea and Gomer, or we could look at, this is the last one, we're going to look at Priscilla and Aquila, which leaves a legacy of togetherness. We read in Acts and in Romans and in 1 Corinthians and in 2 Timothy, we see Priscilla and Aquila. They were tent makers. They worked together. Priscilla and Aquila did everything together, right? And they leave this legacy of togetherness. They were tent makers together. They were friends with Paul. They traveled with Paul, right? They served together in their homes. They used their home as a kind of a meeting place, all right, for other people. They did everything. They did everything together so much, we don't even know if they had children because it's not mentioned in the Bible. They may have had children, but if they did, their lives did not revolve around their children because their lives revolved around Christ, around Jesus. So much so that we don't even know if they had kids. That's an important lesson for us. I think Adam mentioned it earlier when we were doing worship. Married people, your lives should not revolve around your children. Your lives should revolve around God first and then each other. So many times It's easy trap to fall into. Our lives start to revolve around our children. And then we lose connection with our spouse because of that. Right? Because we put our children ahead of our spouse, and that's not biblically what we should do. Our lives should revolve around God first, and then our spouse. Right? And the cool thing about Priscilla and Aquila, their names are mentioned 6 times in the Bible, but never separately. Always together. Every time their names are mentioned in the Bible, they're mentioned together. Priscilla and Aquila. To have a marriage where one name can't be said without the other is so powerful. Right? Isn't that the marriage we all kind of want? Right? Well, we can't say it's not so-and-so over here and so-and-so over here. It's so-and-so and so-and-so. It's Aquila and Priscilla. You can't say one name without saying the other. That's how connected we would like our marriages to be, right? That's where God truly talks about 2 becoming 1, right? It's not just you anymore. It's you and your spouse, right? One name can't be mentioned without the other. The kind of marriage that we desire with our spouse. That was Aquila and Priscilla. So we see this legacy of togetherness. If we could have this legacy of, now some of you are going to be like, I don't want to work with my wife all day long or my husband all day long, right? But if we could have this level of togetherness where we constantly want to be around each other, be connected with each other, serve together, do things together, and our world revolves around God so much, and then our world revolves around each other. And then our kids, not in a reverse order. As we look at the biblical marriages and what we can learn, I think it's important for you to know this. And if you don't catch anything else today, catch this right here. All right? Make sure you catch this. God wants you to know that every marriage can thrive. Every marriage can thrive if you choose to do marriage God's way. Then you have 100% chance of success. Not 99%, not 99.9%, not 50% like the world will tell you. If you choose to do marriage God's way, you have 100% chance of success. The problem in our culture sometimes today is we choose not to do marriage God's way and it doesn't work out. But that's our choice. But when we choose to do marriage God's way, we have 100% chance of success. So how do we leave the godly legacy God has called us in our families? By looking at these examples in the Bible. And I could have sat here and read all these scriptures, but we had been here till 2 o'clock today, right? So I just try to summarize them up for you. Number 1, in your notes, 1, we must surrender to Him. We have to completely surrender to God, like Abraham and Sarah had to do. They tried to do things on their own. It didn't work. Then they decided to surrender to God and then be patient to His will. We must do the same thing. We must first surrender our lives over to God. And then we must surrender our marriages over to God. We must surrender our families over to God. We must surrender to Him. Just like Abraham and Sarah had to get to the point where we've got to surrender this over to God and let Him take care of it. That's what we've got to do as individuals and as married couples. Number 2, we must have obedience to God. We have to decide we are going to be obedient to God. Not just know what He wants us to do, but actually do it. Just like Isaac and Rebekah. They didn't know how things were going to turn out. But they did decide to be obedient to God and trust Him. Rebekah had to make a choice. Isaac had to make a choice. And they decided to be obedient to God individually and then ultimately as a married couple. We must be obedient to God and trust Him. Number 3, forgiveness for Him. We have to decide we are going to forgive as he did. Maybe it's forgiving ourselves, or maybe it's forgiving others. Hosea had to make a choice to forgive Gomer as God forgives us. Sometimes we never can be all that we should for God because we refuse to forgive. So we must choose to forgive, because if we have unforgiveness in here, you're never going to be everything you can be that God wants you to be. It'll hold you back. Number 4, togetherness with him. We must make a decision that we are going to live this life with God, with Jesus leading our life, deciding to pursue as close a relationship as we possibly can with him. Just as Priscilla and Aquila did, everything together, we must decide we are going to do everything with Christ. Which means every decision we make, everything we say, every situation we handle, every response we have, our lives belong to him. And we don't walk through life as an individual. We walk through life together with Jesus. We let him shine through us, be a light through us, do things through us, knowing that his plans are always bigger and better than ours, but we must go through life with him, not out on our own, which we try to do sometimes. If we do this, then we will make the most of our marriages, make the most of our parenting, and ultimately leave a godly legacy that will be passed down from generation to generation to generation. Now, I want to do a little illustration very quickly on how we think marriage looks today. Okay? This is how we perceive marriage today. All right? As we look at social media accounts, as we look at people from the outside in, as we look at other things, maybe on TV shows or movies or whatever it may be. We'll do an illustration on how we think we kind of perceive marriages today. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer, a married couple volunteer. Sorry, Vance, you're not married. And a married couple volunteer. It's got to be married. Youth, put your hands down. You're not married. I don't think. All right? Married couple, perfect. Jake and Kate, come on up. All right, Jake and Kate. Here's what we're gonna do. You scared? All right, grab a chair, Jake. You're big. All right, right here. Here you go. Good. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Adam. Fix me. Oh no, I got you. Oh, I'm just making it worse. I'm making it worse. Oh, good. You get your chair for your wife? Yeah, no, this is for you. I got your chair, Jake. Where are you going? You got your wife's chair. I got your chair. Yeah, good job. Y'all sit close because you're married. How long you been married? Don't tell me. I'll ask in a minute. All right, here's the illustration. Oh, this is heavy, Adam. All right, here we go. Whew. All right, here's what we're going to do. I am going to give you don't really have to do anything, by the way. That's nice, right? I'm going to give you in my head, and I know Jake, they help us with our youth group, and I've known them for a long time, so this works well. I'm glad they volunteered. I don't know if Kate did, but Jake stepped up like a man, all right? But this is how I perceive how they met. And I know a little of their background, so I got a little help here, but this is just like what it's going to happen. They both attended Liberty, and they're there, and everybody at Liberty's married, all right? They're all married, all right? Everybody's living together, married. They got married at the age of 18, 19, right? And so they're all housed there. But not Jake and not Kate. And one day, Jake is playing catcher for the baseball team because that's what he does. All right, and he's down. He's playing catcher, and he's throwing the ball back, and he's doing his thing. He got his full catcher outfit on, right? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all right, Jake sees this young lady walking by the outside of the fence, and she catches his eye, and he stands up. And a ball comes and pelts him right in the bare neck. But because Jake's big, muscular man, it just bounces off of him like a pebble hitting a tree. All right? I'm just making all this up. All right? Now, this could be accurate. And so he says, guys, time out. Fine young lady over there. I got to go talk to her. So he goes running over. All right? And pulls his catcher mask up. got a big welt on his neck. And he says, hello. That's about all Jake says. And Kate stops and she looks back and she goes, hi. All right. And Jake says, you look mighty fine. You mind joining me for some dinner tonight? Some grub? And Kate's like, yeah, that'd be great. All right. I'm spot on with this in her. All right. And then Jake's like, great. I'll meet you at what restaurant you like? Give me a restaurant. I'll meet you at Texas Roadhouse at 6. Don't be late. I like to eat. And she's like, oh, okay, that'd be great. I like the bread there and the cinnamon butter. All right. And so they go. All right. And that night they meet for the date. And they go on their first date at Texas Roadhouse, evidently. All right. And that date leads to another date, and then another date, and another date. And finally, Jake gets to the point, and he's like, hey, Kate, how about you just be my girlfriend? And Kate's like, oh, yeah, I'd love that. All right, so now they're boyfriend and girlfriend, right? So they go from this, oh, she's attractive, he's attractive relationship to this first date, to this boyfriend, girlfriend, and that goes well, obviously. And then he's finally like, you know what? Why don't you just marry me? I got a ring. You marry me. And she's like, oh, great. I was hoping you would ask, right? And so then they're going to get married, so they got to find a really, nice looking pastor to marry them, and someone that would do a really good job. So they find that person, right? And then that person marries them. And then after that, they're like, hey, let's get a dog, let's get an animal, yeah, because that's what we do, or let's get cars, or let's get whatever, right? And then that happens, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, let's have a little squish. And so they decide they have a baby, and they have Hayes, who's just called Squish, and he's like, whatever. All right. So, anyways, that's how I perceive. I try to go through that as quick as I can. That's how I perceive how this union happened. Is that accurate? Spot on. Okay. Spot on. Spot on. You still got the welt on your neck, everything, right? Okay. So, how did, can you, let me get him. Is this messing me up, Adam? Stop where I'm at. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Careful. Okay. This was not part of the plan. This was all improv, too, by the way. Doing something. So I'm going to use this. Oh, good. All right. All right, so I'm going to use this. Okay, so Jake, what was can you tell us the real story? How long have you been married? Maybe I should ask Kate.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years, okay. All right, so can you tell me the real story, or abbreviated version? Okay.
Yeah, we met at Scaremare, and we were scarecrows. And that was it.
You met at Scaremare and you were scarecrows.
Yeah, we met at Scaremare and we were scarecrows and we had to scare people. And it was Josh and Kelly were there with the youth. Y'all were there the night we met.
Okay, I blew that then. If I was there the night you met. All right. Let's give Jake and Kate a round of applause. Thank you can y'all take your chairs back too? That'd be great. Yep. All right. So I was close. All right. I was close. So the real story was just a little bit different than the story I kind of made up, right? But sometimes I think in our relationships, what we perceive is going on is nothing like what actually is going on, right? In our marriages. We see things on social media and it looks good. We see things when we talk to people sometimes and it looks good. We see things sometimes when we interact with people and it looks good. But actually, behind the scenes, it's nothing like that, right? And so I think when we consider that, all right, it's very easy sometimes to compare our marriage or our relationship with someone else's, right? My relationship isn't good enough because, we didn't meet at Scaremare, or on a baseball field, or we didn't do things in this order. We didn't get the dog, or we didn't get the whatever it may be, right? And I think it's easy for us sometimes to compare our relationships with other people of what we perceive. But be careful, like that's not what we should do. Right? Our focus should be on God and what he wants for our relationship, because what he wants for our relationship, me and Kelly's relationship, it may be different than what he wants from Jake and Kate's relationship or your relationship. Like how he wants to use us may be different than how he wants to use you, but the fact of the matter is he wants to use you. He wants to use you in your marriage. He wants to use you in your family, but it may be different than how he uses other people. So we have to be very careful sometimes of what we perceive, and we want to, do something just like someone else, because God may not want you to do that. He may want you to do something a little different. So I'm going to quickly give Jake and Kate tips on how to leave a legacy in their marriage. All right? These are just tips on how they can leave a legacy in marriage. But I'm not just talking to them, I'm talking to you guys as well. So very quickly, I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. 4 tips on how to leave a legacy in your marriage. Number 1, communication. It starts and ends with communication, guys. If you cannot communicate effectively with your spouse, your relationship will never be all it can be. Communication. You should not have secrets between you and your spouse. Your spouse should know everything. You don't have secrets between you and God. And your marriage is a direct correlation between Christ and the church. So you shouldn't have secrets between you and your spouse. You should be able to openly communicate with your husband, with your wife. Jake should be able to openly communicate with Kate, and Kate should be able to openly communicate with him. If communication breaks down, the relationship begins to break down. So tip number 1, make sure you're communicating effectively with your spouse. Number 2, don't speak negative of your spouse in front of others. I cringe sometimes when I'm around people that are married and somebody makes not a very good comment about their spouse in front of other people. You should be there to take up for each other, not put each other down. Jake should not speak ill of Kate in front of other people, and then vice versa. You should not speak ill of your spouse in front of other people. If anything, you should be their biggest cheerleader. You should be their biggest fan. You should be the one lifting them up. So don't speak negative of your spouse in front of others. Number 3, pray for and with your spouse. Pray for and with. One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give Jake and Kate is to pray for each other, but also pray with each other. If you are not praying with your spouse, if you are not praying for your spouse, you should. That's tip number 3. Pray for and with your spouse. Number 4, serve God and each other. Use your marriage to serve God. Maybe that means holding a Bible study at your house. Maybe that means going out and doing some sort of work for him. Maybe that means serving inside the church together or outside the church together. But use your relationship to serve God and then serve each other. One of the best things Jake can do is find ways to serve Kate. And one of the best things Kate can do is find ways to serve Jake. You should be there to serve. They're not there to serve you. You should be there to serve them. So serve God in your relationship, in your marriage, but also find ways to serve your spouse. And sometimes that gets all kind of out of whack because one serves more than the other. And we get a little greedy, right? So find ways to serve God and serve each other. Now, I'm going to give Jake and Kate and all of you some tips on how to leave a legacy with a little squish. How can they leave a legacy with a little squish man that runs around like this? There he goes, right? How can you leave a legacy with your children? The very first thing you can do, here's tip number 1, love your spouse. I'll say that one more time. Love your spouse. The greatest gift a parent can give their child is to love their spouse. The greatest gift a parent can give their child is to love their spouse. Little Squish should know that Jake loves Kate. And Little Squish should know that Kate loves Jake. Your children should know that you love your spouse. Do not leave any question with that. Never let that be a question in their heads. That's the greatest gift you can give your children. Number 2, how to leave a legacy with your children. Make church a priority. Make church a priority. When you don't make church a priority in your children's lives, guess what? It's not a priority for them when they grow up. I was fortunate to have a mommy that made me and my older brother, go to church every Sunday. Guess what we still do? Go to church. It's not a coincidence. Yes, you may say, well, my kid doesn't like going to church. Well, your kid probably doesn't like going to school or the doctor or the dentist or a lot of other things too. But you're the parent. As long as they're in their household, you make the rules. And if you make church optional, then when they get older, church will be optional. And here's the worst part. It's going to be optional for their kids too. That's the legacy you leave. As a parent, you leave the legacy of church was optional for my kid, so now it's optional for my grandkids. And then you're shocked. Why don't my grandkids go to church? Make church a priority in your home. Sometimes kids have to do things they don't want to do or don't like to do. You're the parent. That's why you're there. So make church a priority in your home. Number 3, be the example you desire them to be. They are watching you more than you ever know. They know more than you ever know. So be the example you want them to be. How you handle situations, they're watching. How you speak, they're listening. Decisions you make, they're watching. How you treat other people, they're watching. What you make a priority, they're watching. So be the example you desire them to be. That's how you can leave a legacy with your children. That's how you can leave a legacy with your children. There are some verses on the handout today. I'm not going to go through them all right now because we're going to run out of time. But it's 7 verses about marriage. 7 verses about marriage. And it's in order. Starts with Genesis 1:27. I would really recommend you read those verses at some point in time this week. I'm not going to read them all now because we're running out of time. But there are 7 verses. Starts with Genesis 1:27 about marriage and how marriage should look and what God says about marriage. They're kind of all over the Bible, but they're kind of in order of what they should go. There's also a couple verses on there about parenting. Starts in Deuteronomy. There are 3 verses about parenting on there. Take time to read those, and they go in order throughout the week coming up. So read those verses on your own. Maybe read them with your spouse. Maybe read them with your children. Find some time this week to read those 7 verses, to read those 3 verses about marriage and about parenting, about leaving a legacy in those. As we wrap up today, I'm going to have the praise team come on up. Who wants to commit to leaving a legacy with their families is the question. Who wants to have a marriage that has eternal impacts? Who wants to effectively guide their children and leave them with an eternal positive influence? Hopefully we all do, right? Like hopefully that's what we all want to do. Here's the greatest thing of all. It's our choice. It's your choice. It's my choice. The legacy you choose to leave with your family, with your spouse, with your children, it's your choice. I get to choose what kind of legacy I want to leave with Kelly. I get to choose what kind of legacy I want to leave with Jackson and Kipton. You get to do the same with your spouse, with your kids, with the relationships in your life, with your family members. Do you desire to have an impactful, successful marriage and get out of it everything that you can? Do you want to make the most of your parenting opportunities? Remember, guys, you're going to leave a legacy. And it's either going to be a very positive, godly one with your spouse and your kids and your family members and other people, or it's not. But the choice is nobody's but yours. You can't put that off on anybody else. It's all on you. So what kind of legacy are you going to leave with your family? I pray that you choose to leave a godly one, not one of optional church, not one of downgrading your spouse, not one of not living for God, but one that reflects God as marriage should do. Reflects His greatness, His grace, His forgiveness. Hopefully that's the kind of legacy we want to leave. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to dive into legacy in our families this morning. I pray, Lord, that if there's anybody here, Lord, that doesn't know you, Lord, I pray they come to know you because they can't leave the effective legacy that you wanted them to leave, Lord, without you, Father. I pray, Lord, that for our married couples here today, that they are leaving a legacy in their marriage that honors you. For our parents here today, I pray they're leaving a legacy in their parenting that honors you. And I just pray, Lord, that during this time, maybe a little reflection, that people may need to come to this altar today and just give some things over to you. So while our heads are bowed, would you stand with me? And our eyes are closed. And here's the invitation this morning. If you want to come to this altar this morning and pray about the legacy you will leave in your family, in your marriage, with your children, come do that this morning. Maybe a spouse needs to take the lead. Maybe a parent needs to take the lead and grab your child. But what type of legacy are you going to leave with your families this morning? I encourage you to use this altar this morning. Husbands, wives, grab your spouse, bring them to this altar. Give things over to God this morning. Parents, maybe grab your children. Come pray with them this morning. You want to leave a legacy of prayer with your children? There's not a better way than to do it with them. Use this altar this morning. However, God is leading you to use it. Very powerful to bring your spouse to this altar. Very powerful to bring your child to this altar. You can do that right here, right now. If you need somebody to pray with you, I'm right here. I'll pray with you. We've got other deacons here that'll pray with you. But use this altar this morning how God wants you to use it.